All right, hey everybody. As you start to join in, it's Darren Tipton, and everybody's catching their breath. Uh, a lot of you are probably traveling home. 15's parents, congratulations on surviving club season, and you made it. And now you get to catch your breath for about a week or two, and then high school camps and season starts. But in Dallas, and thought we'd come up on here and do a quick recap of some things. And either later tonight or tomorrow on the off day, we're going to get another episode of the VB Adrenaline podcast recorded. I will get a bunch of our content um, posted and get all caught up on the class of 2027 updates, update all of our list. We'll update the commits of the last 4 or 5 days since I've been down here. Some very big commits, some classes starting to fill in as well, and some really big developments as well. But I just wanted to come on and talk about a few things that I noticed here in Dallas, and we will dive into a lot more of the class of 28 um, after I get back. Yes, we took a lot of notes. Yes, we watched a lot. I watched a lot of talented athletes, but there was no way to um, write on all of them. And so it was more note taking. And again, the way that I or we kind of choose to do it is I still think it's a little bit early to start putting out PPV scores um, for this class, let alone when they're eighth graders or ninth graders. But just don't feel comfortable doing it until we've really seen them. And with 100 courts and them coming and going, and to see some of them for 10 minutes, it's really difficult to do. And with a lot of clubs having multiple teams, a lot of the athletes start to look the same after a couple days. So, um, it really wasn't fair to start posting just random PPV scores for brand new athletes. So we'll get that done. I will tell you that my initial impression and an impression that I had over and over and over again, and that I said to many, many people was this was the first year that I really had that thought that, oh my goodness, 15-year-olds look just way different and much more taller and physical than they've ever looked before. This class, just as a whole, looks a year or two older. And um, I had a great time talking with Chris Fitzgerald of Prep Dig, who I just respect and love his work. Chris and I have talked for years doing this, and he texted me today saying, "Man, I forgot how many girls got pulled up from the 2029s that were actually playing in this as well." So a lot of the top players you saw were actually 29s playing in this 15s group. So very deep class, very talented class, and just a ton of talent there and great volleyball. So we'll get into that. We'll get caught up at some point, but for me, you're not just going to see a bunch of names thrown on paper and put down on a list. That's just not what we do. So um, we will talk about some of the teams, some of the athletes, and the play in general. Um, and number one, if you're a fan of liberos, this is going to be your class. And I think difference making bros. I know we've already started an article on this class, and I added two more names while I was here to throw into that article. I just think program changing, possible all American level liberos in this class. I think you could be talking about six, potentially eight in this group alone in this class that have that ability to be at that level in the 2028 class that could go on to the college level and push for that all American level with the college program. And so, yes, the setter group will be deep and talented. Yes, there are going to be some pins, middles, but I think the libero group is the group um, that may have the most all American type impact and be the deepest. So, um, just one quick point on the 2028. So, one thing I want to get into and just touch on a little bit before we go into the recruiting classes a little bit um, and show you guys is one thing on our website that we have done and we've added or just separated a little bit more on VB Adrenaline is we've added conference pages. And so we had a lot of interest from college fans. And yes, we added the college fan pages. And hopefully, we're going to be adding one or two more here in the very near future. But we've added a lot of articles that may not have been for a school or schools that we have fan pages for. And it was starting to get really cluttered and hard to decipher and find those. And so what we went and did was added conference pages for every conference. Now here we're showing the ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big 10, but there's a page for the Big East, Summit League. Every conference in college volleyball has its own page, and there's a drop down menu. And so what you do is there's actually a page for the Big Ten, and then any article that contains news on the Big Ten, you go click on it and it's listed under there. So, um, for example, one of our writers did, I believe, SEC by the numbers, where he just listed a bunch of stats the first week of recruiting on the SEC. Okay. And you'll click on that. It's under the SEC page. You can read that. So you don't have to go sort through everything if you're an SEC fan. And so that's something that I think is really cool. And as we get to the college season and start going into more college content, we could have SEC notes. And so we're hoping to draw in just more college fans and then also help them to learn about what's going on in the recruiting world. And we will do more college specific. And so we'll be doing a little bit of both. And then they can also learn about possibly their favorite teams, recruiting, what's going on there as well, whether we have a specific fan page for them or not. So that's something that we've added. Now, also, when you click on that team or that conference, so when you click on the SEC page, right below it is the SEC rankings. So every conference's rankings is right below it. So you click on the SEC news page, the SEC recruiting rankings are right below it. All right. So if you're a Kentucky fan, yes, they have their own fan page, but also right below it are the SEC rankings. And then you can click on Kentucky and you can see Kentucky's recruiting class. So if you want to look at everybody in the SEC, it's right there. So I think it's kind of a cool feature for you college fans, or if you're just a recruiting fan and you want to check up on your favorite college team, it's there. and it's very easy to find. So just something that we've added as we draw in more and more college fans and more college coaches that start to follow us. Just a little bit easier, and we'll do more conference polls, uh, conference preseason teams, postseason teams, uh, midseason, all conference teams, etc. So just something to include our college fans. All right. So we've updated this, and we talked about this before the season, and we've just kind of updated this as recruiting has gone on. So this is our level grid, and we talked about this how it matched up with our PPB prospect player values and where we had it before the season. And we've kind of moved this around according to how recruiting has gone so far. Some teams have moved up a little bit, some teams have moved down. And what we've kind of seen, and I'll kind of go through this a little bit according to what we've seen and things we've heard a little bit. So, first of all, yes, I understand Texas's class, PPV wise, is lower. And again, I will take time once things slow down a little bit and on the Texas fan page and break down exactly what I think they've done. I think it's actually very calculated, their class. And I think they're still in the hunt for a player. And if they land that player, I think it's going to drastically change their class. But they are still right there, regardless of what this class is. And if you listen to the podcasts that I record later, you'll understand that a lot of classes and a lot of schools will have years like Texas is having now. So it doesn't affect their prestige level at all. Now, I do believe that Wisconsin, again, a team that has zero signees right now, is still right where they've always been. But Penn State has definitely secured themselves as back in the Big Four, the Big Five, whatever you want to call it. They have moved themselves up where they are definitely equal with Wisconsin. Just mm, I I hate to say it, maybe just a little bit below a Texas or Nebraska. Not much, but just below. But they are definitely back at that level. So you can't say a big two anymore or a big three. You have to look and say that group of four. Um, Now, I have put a question mark by Stanford and dropped them just a little bit. First of all, because of their very prestigious academic rules, we never get to find out or officially find out until May, um, whatever. But they, there's been some talk because of the financial situations with revenue sharing, if that may somewhat hurt Stanford in their academic situation, because nobody really knows what each school, what kind of shape they're in. And what maybe this year's class potentially looks like. And again, there's two prospects potentially out there that if they would get both of them, they'll be just fine. Um, but I did put a question mark there just because, again, speculation. None of these coaches are coming out and telling anybody their real situation with rev share, especially Stanford, which is always quiet on everything. But there's just been speculation, other coaches kind of wondering, like, hey, I wonder if this might affect them more than things have in the past, just because they have such a lock and it was such a niche school that maybe this affects a little bit. And with so many athletes, wanting to decide now, and with money involved, will this potentially affect them? It may not hurt them at all. It's just a potential wait and see. So literally put a question mark there because I'm wondering. Okay, um, let's wait and see. And I just bumped them because I think it's a little bit more difficult class right now. Again, I know they're in for two potentially very, very good athletes, and they end up getting them. It's business as usual. If not, maybe it's something to think about and look at in the 28 class and see if it's a trend. Unfortunately, we won't know until May, um, but we'll wait and see. Pitt, Louisville have shown again that they have definitely separated themselves from everybody else. I still would say they're below here. They're neck and neck. It just makes me laugh how similar these programs are, considering how big of rivals they are, but they're just right there. And they've definitely separated themselves from everybody else. And I think, and they're just comfortably right here in their own space with two more great classes. As we move down just a little bit, UCLA, I mean, they're as hot as any team I think in the country, both with the transfer portal and now their recruiting class, what they've done. A&M, very very solid class. I think they benefit more from you know the USA connections and the NTDP stuff more than probably anybody. But heck, you know, that's how it is. And a lot of great connections there. And with the Sophie Peterson situation there, you look at all of that, they're benefiting from that greatly. They're in Texas. They're going to have a ton of prospects. That's paying off. And more power to them. But they have had another you know, great class. And you look at where those prospects come from. Um, they're putting that together now. Again, second really good class in 3 years. Kentucky, they get Kentucky recruits. God knows the administration's not helping them, so Coach Skinner just keeps doing it his way and putting together solid classes. But it is, you know, um, a little more of a challenge for them. I think winning recruiting battles has been a little more bit more difficult. Versus some of these teams than it has been. Michigan State, first year, I've talked about that quite a bit. Um, did exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations, and so they took a big leap up. USC has been wait and see. They could finish the class with a couple surprises and move themselves right back up, but had them down a little bit. Mizzou moved them up. Great class, following a very solid class, and they are in on a lot of prospects, so they are doing something right. They are in a recruiting hotbed um, in the Kansas City area and very close to a lot of other recruiting hotbeds. And they're in the SEC. They're one of those teams that I talked about in the middle of the SEC that I thought would take a jump. Mizzou, I will apologize. They weren't one of the teams that I had thought would be the one, but they've done it 2 years in a row. So props to that staff, and I bumped them up. SMU, talked about coach yesterday. They made a slight bump up. We had them just on the ridge of silver. KU, I bumped them down slightly. Slow start to this class. I know they're in on a couple prospects still, where again, this is early. There's still talent out there. They can finish the class, but slow start to begin with. I had them in Michigan State as my picks this year. Michigan State has gotten off to the hot start. Um, KU has not. The class is not over with, but that's why I bumped them down as of now. Creighton, moved them up. Talked about their class. Okay, they moved up another notch, um, as I kind of expected them to. Baylor, again, solid, doing what they're doing. Minnesota bumped up just a little bit. They got the one recruit thereafter, and I mean, they got the one recruit that they were after. And it seems like every year they get the one recruit thereafter. And now we'll see, you know, how they add to that program. The coach has talked about this is first year with his kids in there, and we'll see. But they move up a little bit as well, and I think that's a really competitive line, um, for them. And so they're at. Come down here where we had a big grouping, and we've had a little bit of movement. We talked about this SEC. Okay, so we've moved Ole Miss up, we've moved Bama up, Auburn has moved up, Tennessee has moved down just a little bit, Vandy's moved up a bit. I moved Virginia up from not the bottom line, but from the orange line up to high end of the orange, below the red. I moved Florida down actually 2.5 levels. It's been a very slow start for Florida, and we talked about that, not knowing. I just went off the camp numbers, and this has been a full start. And last year's class, um, was a down class for Florida as well. So, we'll see. Again, early, they could land one or two talented prospects and move them back up, but they were down. We moved Purdue down. That was a program that we talked about. All of these could move back up. It's just the start to their class. Duke, we moved up. Georgia Tech, we moved down slightly. We moved ASU down. We moved Arizona up to, again, maybe not the highest overall total PPV, but I thought, with both the outside they signed 2 days ago, Uduemi from California, and then I'll keep saying it, I think they signed maybe as far as a fit with Tinsley Welker. I love her out of Texas, and I think that is a huge fit need for them to get her out of Texas. And I think that's a potential year one player to go to Arizona. And for AU to get her out of Texas, where I don't know, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time today that I was way off. But I had her looking at schools in Texas potentially landing, and for AU to grab her, Arizona to grab her, that's a potential year one, I think, if she continues to develop. So for me, that's a huge win for them. Um, and those two, and I think they have three in that class already. That's big, for them. I've talked about Kansas State. We moved them up. Ohio State. We moved up. We moved up one. Um, again, adding athletes. Vandy, again, I don't know. Well, I think one is a potential rotation year one player in the SEC, but they're adding solid players, which again, I think when you're trying to build or turn around a program, it's solid players who just don't make mistakes. And then I just think for a year or two, they go get difference makers probably in the portal as they bring their younger players around and plug and play for a little bit. But I think they're pretty happy with, the high school prospects that they have, in this year's class. Bama and Ole Miss both. regional type kids that are athletic. And I've talked about this with 3 or 4 classes. I think we talked about that with Ohio State and Michigan as well. They added conference type athletes that they can train to be better volleyball players, but they have athletes that can compete in the conference. And at some point, you got to have the athletes that can match up to a Nebraska, a Wisconsin, a Penn State, a Texas, right? And then you teach them to be better volleyball players, right? But if you can't touch 10-4, 10-5 to compete with these guys, your volleyball skill only goes so far. And so I think those programs added that, which was very big um, on that. And so we talked about TCU's addition. And so there's just a look at what I think and how this has changed a little bit. And maybe Georgia off to a little bit slower start than they were last year, dropped down. Um, BYU's kind of held steady. I know ASU's added a couple foreign players, and then I know one commit from Minnesota for sure. Um, with that, so anyways, that's where we have. I think about it with the 2 from Carolina. Carolina should probably be up for sure, up a level. Um, up a level for sure. I would think with there too. So that's probably a mistake on my part. So um, with that, and then the last thing I want to pull up, if I can, here's just our top 10 as it sits right now. And again, everybody, I'll go through this. Um, we promote this all the time. I know a couple other sites are going to make a big rollout of theirs, I'm sure sometime soon. Ours is up every day. Okay. Our top 10 has been up since June 16th, and it updates in real time every time a new commit, every time we update a PPV score, every time. Now, 16s are coming to nationals, right? And for 2 days, we're going to watch a lot of these commits. Some are going to go up. And I actually was talking with some coaches, I honestly think in this class, we over evaluated quite a few kids, especially a lot of the outsides, a lot of the pins. And so, matter of factly, a lot of them are going to go down a little bit. They're just some that they're evaluated too high, to be honest. And so as they go down or up, these scores are going to change. But ours are in real time and they're up every day. And so we don't have to make a big, hey, look at our new rankings. Our rankings are up every single day. Maybe that hurts us, right? But you can go and check our rankings every day for the full year, and they're up. You want to see where your team's at every day, um, and how you sit. And again, when players, our PPVs are evaluated, and they constantly change during the high school season. Okay, we go to a tournament or we watch a tournament on Muller TV. Right? 10 to 15 kids may have their PPV scores slightly tweaked. That affects a ranking. Okay. And again, it's not as simple as throwing a bunch of rankings on paper. And I still don't know how other people do it, but we're very transparent. It is not perfect. I asked a few coaches today, tell me the perfect way to rank college classes and take human emotion out of it. And basically, the answer they got was there's no perfect way to do that. So ours might not be perfect, but at least we're transparent about it. Okay. And again, here's a simple way that ours is done. It takes the average PPV score of everybody in your class, and that's your class ranking. Okay. That's how we do the class ranking. Now, if you have less than 3, like USC, you get a 10% deduction. Okay, that's That's how we do it. And I can't remember my cell phone number most of the time, so I sure as heck can't think, okay, if this girl from West Virginia, if I drop her PPV by 7 points, that's going to move their total score to this. Yep. And that'll bump them ahead of Georgia. And I don't like Georgia. So yeah, I'm going to fix it. Guys, I'm not that smart. Okay. So there's isn't biased in that. I don't go and sit down and say, okay, let me take a UCLA kid and just bump them 7 points. No, I better bump them 9 points. I better bump them 11. Okay, they're finally ahead of SMU. That's what I wanted. I, we don't do that. We go enter the PPV scores, and I don't even look at the rankings. Okay, most of the time, I'm not even one that enters the PPV scores, right? We have a summer intern that does all that stuff, and these update automatically. We've done this to take human error out of it. Okay. And this is why these update on their own. So we've done it to be as unbiased as we possibly can. All right. And so at least we're transparent with it. I want everybody to know, but you can check this in real time. And I think because of that, we're as accurate as we possibly can. And we don't say, oh, you know, Stephanie Smith was 110 ppv. Oh, I heard that USC's recruiting her. Now she's 215 ppv tomorrow, right? We don't do that, and I'm not so sure that other people don't do that, and that's exactly why we've set ours up to be that way, right? Is we take that out of it, and so I just encourage you to go check ours out. This is free on the website every single day. You can look at any team you want, any time of the day. This is free. The only thing that costs is when you click on the teams to look and look at the players, etc. That's when you need a membership. And to be honest, we posted over, I think, 14 articles last week. It's $2.25 a week. So you do the math on that. It's like a quarter an article. So um, it costs me a lot more than that for a plane ticket to come down here and cover nationals. So I think it's worth it. All right. Um, and so in closing, that's some of our recruiting stuff. It's up to date. 16s are coming in. A couple things I really liked. I really liked the athleticism. You can just see the change in the athletes. I think that's great. I'm going to talk a lot more on the podcast about what I like about the new form of the rev share. I got to get used to saying rev share, because I've been a fan and I've studied salary cap, if you will, with NFL and MLB and NBA for years. So that interests me. I also think it's causing a little more parity, which I am all about in college volleyball. I think that's great for the game. One thing, and I won't get on my soapbox too much, I was hoping this wouldn't happen, but it did happen. Big money in volleyball, and a lot of the negative stuff I think that comes with it. I think I finally saw that in full effect this weekend. All the money grab people are here. It didn't take long, and it's in full effect. And I saw a lot of that stuff that if you don't think all the stuff you didn't like about basketball and slimy football and all that, right? The entourage and the latchers on, and it's here, right? And if you watched a couple of the really talented 15s, you know what I'm talking about. And those people aren't going away, and they're going to become more and more prevalent. And hey, I guess comes with it, but protect your kids with that because it's growing so fast. I know volleyball was planning on it. Um, Basketball's had decades and decades to prep for it, but that's here, and that was kind of it. Just felt market like, um, and had different feel um, this weekend, and it just wasn't as fun um, for me. But that's here in a real way, and is what it is, I guess. So it just was weird. And that was the 15s. That wasn't even the older. That wasn't even for the older ones on their way to college. And I get all about like making your brand, and I think we need to do a better job of that. And I'll keep talking about it. But with that comes, you know, comes other things. And so that part is definitely here. And so the innocent playing the game for younger girl stuff is seems like it's gone, and it's full business. It's full business now, and so um, be ready for it because it's not a game for younger girls anymore. It looks like it's full entrepreneurship. So um, be prepared for that. But anyways, great job, 15s. Enjoy your little bit of time off that you get, and very very impressive. Back to the podcast following along. We'll keep our recruiting updates. Coaches, thanks for the input that all of you gave me. Great meeting some more parents and keep doing what we do. And that's it for me for right now. Thanks.